BCD here, and today we are reviewing 007 First Light across 5 different handheld devices. That includes the Legion Go 2, Xbox Ally X, Legion Go S, Xbox Ally, and lastly, the Steam Deck OLED. If you are new to this channel, get subscribed if you are interested in seeing more head-to-head comparisons, and feel free to check out the existing 200 videos around optimizations currently posted on the channel. First, let's set some expectations. If you're coming to this video thinking you're going to be pushing 40 or 60 FPS on high settings, you need to change your expectations. We are generally console players over here at heart, and we do not like frame drops. I do not like instability. I don't like getting 40 somewhere and then getting 32 elsewhere. So today we are chasing absolute stability, optimizing for a rock solid console-like 30 FPS experience on the go. To test this fairly, I have chosen 2 stress areas in the game. The airfield sequence from PlayStation State of Play preview that pretty much chugged the entire time, which was crazy. And then the lounge club scene that shows off the volumetrics and bounce lighting and everything in between. Let's get started. First up, the Rogue Xbox Ally X. If you're looking at ergonomics and pure handheld comfort for long session, this is easily my go-to right now, so I would call this my comfort king. Setup: we're running at 1600 by 900 resolution, 25 watt TDP with CPU boost turned on because this game is heavily CPU bound. Settings are pushed to medium across the board, so medium shadows, medium volumetrics, medium reflections, etc., etc. FSR is set to quality. With those settings, you're looking at a stable baseline of 30 FPS. There is situations sometimes where you'll see a CPU bottleneck a little bit and it'll go below that. Those were very specific areas that I was able to kind of uncover, but ideally we started at high settings for everything and we went down to medium to mitigate that even further. You're going to get diminishing returns if you try to go up to 30 to 35 watts because it really doesn't give you any boost. But if you want to get more additional stability and you feel comfortable with that, you can increase it. But 25 TDP was the sweet spot, as anything above that started to seem like diminishing returns. But we'll get back to that wattage in a second once we talk about some other things. Next, the Legion Go 2, same thing, running Windows 11 and Xbox mode. Docking this thing can still be a bit of cumbersome, so the best thing about this one is still going to be that OLED screen with the HDR support, which is just ridiculously good at this point, with that VRR window going from 30 to 144 hertz. Setup for this one was the same. We wanted to mimic those settings: 1600 by 900, 25 watt TDP, performance OS mode, which is kind of giving you that CPU more power, and exact same medium settings across the board with FSR quality. Again, when you take this into consideration of what you're going to be looking at handheld mode, it's going to be 1600 by 1000, but I didn't see much of a difference between 1600 by 1000 and 1600 by 900, so I don't expect that to be a significant drop or change in your FPS overall. But funny enough, Legion Go 2 definitely outpaced the Xbox Ally X in stability, and I believe it's simply due to the amount of VRAM that's associated, because we're going to be talking about another one here in a second, which has the same VRAM profile and also was able to get a 1-up on the Xbox Ally X. So with this one, because you have additional VRAM and you have that 30 to 144 hertz variable refresh rate window, you can actually turn VSync off when using it in handheld mode, which gives you even less latency when it comes to movement, because 30 FPS just has more latency. But because you don't need to rely on VSync to make sure you're not getting any tearing, it becomes even better. So a lot snappier, feels good, and it handles those dips perfectly. Next up, with the upper echelon or premium handhelds, we have the Legion Go S running Steam OS with 32 gigs of RAM. Setup for this one as well was 1600 by 900, 25 watt TDP, medium settings across the board. And this one, because of Steam OS, we saw a lot more stability with the Z1 over the Z2 in regards to being able to get closer to a 40 FPS lock. Now, granted, those dips still come into play, So it's not as if it's 40 FPS and the other ones can't get there. They get there. It's just the same problematic issues that I was seeing before. The only one that was showing a little bit of a difference was the Xbox Ally X, because again, it doesn't have as much VRAM as the Legion Go 2 and Legion Go S. So with that, you can see that there is some form or way you can definitely get to a steady 40 FPS. I just feel like the amount of things you would have to change is such a problem for me that I wouldn't recommend it anyway. So because that extra power isn't being utilized in a way that really makes sense, especially when there is still a lot of fluctuations between scenes, I would still highly recommend a 30 FPS lock using those same settings, boosting it at that 25-watt TDP and leaving it there. You could potentially get a little bit of additional performance if you go to 30 or 35, but I didn't see much of a value there either. So 25 TDP being where we kind of settled on for 30 FPS lock. If you feel like you're getting too many bumps in the road, definitely up that TDP or lower the resolution. My first goal would be to up the TDP. Next, let's talk about the Steam Deck. As always, first party hardware running on a first party OS just works. Display switching, handling background tasks, all this extra stuff that I normally don't notice unless I'm trying to do a bunch of different tests, show me that the Steam Deck and the Legion Go S are not on equal footing when it comes to performance and the ability to work within the Steam OS operating system. There's just things that work natively on the Steam Deck that does not work so well on the Legion Go S, including native resolution shifts and audio. It just seems as if the audio is kind of problematic on the Legion Go S. For this setup, we had 1280 by 800p FSR on balance. Settings had to be dialed back a little bit, so low textures, medium shadows, medium volumetrics, low volumetric effects. The verdict: visually, it looks a bit softer, and you'll notice the low res textures, especially if you dock it on a TV. In handheld, though, it's perfectly fine. Performance wise, it stays right around the 30 FPS target, but it will fall below that when the screen fills with like smoke, or if there's any like big situations happening, it does kind of drop. So this is the only time I would still kind of say this is okay to play with this kind of block, because there's so much fluctuation. Even the bottleneck parts weren't super bad. It was like 27, 28 versus going down to like 20, then it'll be obviously unplayable. But for the most part, you're probably going to be around that 30 FPS mark just due to the vast differences from scene to scene. Finally, we have the Xbox Ally. To be honest, this one kind of disappointed me a little bit. And I think that if we had Steam OS on it, it would perform a little bit better. But we had to go down to 720p. Obviously, VSync is on for all of the ones that is not the Legion Go 2. And the Xbox Ally had the same matching Steam Deck settings with medium to low blended settings. Out of all the 5 devices, this one struggled the most with consistency. During the airplane scene, the frame rate completely tanked. Looking at the club, it still was tanking. I believe we can kind of claw some of this back by trying to place in a hard lock, but it still seems as if it's going to be dipping. It's still going to be a compromised performance unless you go down to dismal levels and go to 720p and at performance FSR. But then again, it's just going to be a terrible image. So you might have the stability, but it's just not going to look good. So it's tough to recommend on the Xbox Ally with just this configuration. I think a lot of stuff is riding on the amount of RAM. And because this one isn't as OS efficient as Steam OS, it just does not work well. So let's wait for some updates on that one, and we'll probably be retesting it. But as of right now, I do not recommend you play it on the Xbox Ally. So just to give a recap of my settings, 16 by 900 or 16 by 1000, depending on the aspect ratio, 1280 by 800 or 1280 by 720, depending on the aspect ratio for the lower end. And then you have quality FSR on the higher end, balance on the lower end. And you have mostly medium settings on the higher end. And then you have a little bit of a mixture, which I'll place on the screen as of now. 7 First Light is a really well optimized game. You're getting some of the biggest performance I've seen from a day one drop in a long time, especially on handhelds. But I know my audience and I know that you probably want a little bit more. So we did try to go for 60. And honestly, I just couldn't figure out a good way to make it look good. So instead of doing the 60 route, we went with let's just up the resolution higher with these same settings. So for both of them, I wouldn't recommend doing it on the decks. But if you do it on the Legion Go 2, Xbox Ally X, or the Legion Go S, and you docking this, you can definitely go to the native resolution of the screen. So that's 1920 by 1200 or 1920 by 1080, depending on the aspect ratio. With that, you're going to get higher fidelity, higher visual quality, and clarity, and it's still going to have a lock 30, but you do want to up it to a 35 TDP at that point to make sure that you have stability across the board. Because as I did test a lot of areas, there still could be some of those ones out there that may just make it buckle. So just throwing that extra 35, even if it may not be doing anything, you're going to have it docked already. Try that out to see if you're going to be able to have a sufficient performance level that's going to keep you at that super steady 30 FPS all the time. But yeah, that would be the bonus there. If I had to stack rank them, of course, we're going Legion Go 2 at the top just because of the VRR and the extra stability that we were able to achieve. Then we're going to go Legion Go S due to the extra VRAM that's going to make sure that 30 FPS lock is there. And then finally, the Xbox Ally X going into the Steam Deck, then the Xbox Ally. Xbox Ally X was the first time I've seen it on the bottom. I don't think it should be there because I think the VRAM thing should be resolved. So hopefully they have some solution for streaming in and out things that makes it not as VRAM hungry as it is today to put that back in its rightful place, which is somewhere up there with the Legion Go 2. It's not a terrible approach, but it's definitely, you can see the missing headroom that's necessary for the experience that we're looking for. So that's pretty much it. Thank you all for watching. As always, if you enjoy the content, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you always for the support, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Stay safe, stay beautiful, stay out the way. Peace.